Hello everyone. Today another episode of What Makes This Track Tick. So I'm going to analyze a track. I've imported it into Ableton Live and we're going to pick this one apart, and today it's going to be Oblivion by Boston 168. So this is the most popular track of Boston 168. They are an Italian duo. They make acid techno, very heavily acid influenced, atmospheric, moody stuff, I would say, with a lot of 303 Roland drum machines, and they're pretty good, very good productions. And this one is their most popular track. It's from 2016, came out on March 3rd. And if you look it up on YouTube, it has like a ton of views. So I thought it would be interesting to have a look at this one because there's some cool stuff going on in this track. So what I've done here is I've imported the audio into Ableton Live, and I made all these MIDI tracks, which you can see down here. And almost all of them are not actually making any sound. They're just clips without notes, without instruments loaded on the tracks. They're sort of dummy clips, like I did before a week or two ago with Amelie Lenz's track In Silence. I actually have recreated two parts in live. That is these two 303 parts, which I'll get to later. So what I'll do here is I'll just start playing the track and pause it every once in a while and talk you through what's going on and what makes this track tick. So we start off with an intro, 16 bars with no beats and some ambient noises happening. So let's just get into it here. So there's something droning in the background. I've made that here, intro drone. And then there's this repeating white noise burst. Shh, that one. And some other ambient sounds that, as you can see, return at certain moments in the track. And then at the end of the intro, the last 4 bars, there is this acid synth. A 303 sound. It could be another synth, but it's probably a 303 with the filter not that far open. I've just recreated it here, this pattern, really simple pattern with some delay on it. Of course, there's also reverb on it. And there's also some sort of harmonic thing going on. I'll just turn this off again. When you listen to the original, some overtones in there. Don't know exactly how they did that. And so there's not a lot happening with this bass. Later on, there will be some modulation of the filter, but for now, it's just a very sort of constant, sort of stoic, undercooled sounding bass. And so after 16 bars, we get the kick and the sub bass coming in. Pretty dry sounding kick and very heavy bass rumble. Now, if you go to the if you just isolate these with a low pass filter here, you can hear that's just definitely without the click from the kick. This bass rumble. They could have made this by putting a reverb on the kick and resampling it or something like that. Interesting thing is that if I filter out the every first quarter note, so every first kick with LFO tool here, just duck the volume I have to say. And now I turn on the metronome, which then replaces the kick basically. You can hear that it's actually quite a weird rhythm. It sounds kind of clumsy if you do it like this, but then if I just turn off the metronome again and turn off LFO tool here, so no ducking, it works together very nicely. So great techno kick rumble combination that comes in here. And then as we move along, you see all these sounds dotted around the arrangement. So for instance, this one here, which I've named bell, you hear that sort of, it's not like hitting a bell, but it's more like a drone made of a bell. And that sort of repeats quite regularly, but then other things like this one, I call that minor third because the bass note is, and this is not very good singing, sorry. It's here again, and here. Here, there's the low pass filter that's opened up here. You can actually hear like sort of like a flute-like synth sound. Whereas here at the beginning, you get that same thing, but here the low pass filter is more closed. You can barely hear it. And then this white noise burst, that's repeating constantly, so that's why I made it one long sort of repeating clip where I drew a note where you can see where it happens, and it's just on the spot exactly every 4 bars. It happens once in the second bar of that little block. And then there's other stuff, fills, drones. And I guess the thing here is that some of these, like the white noise burst and this bell-like sound, they happen on regular intervals, but other ones, they just almost look like they're randomly dotted around the arrangement. There's a bunch of other sounds that I haven't even put in here, or a bunch. I think there are several ones. Like with the previous analysis I did of In Silence, sometimes it's difficult to hear what is actually doing what, and whether a sound is part of an existing sound, but for instance with a low pass filter opened up with some weird high end harmonics coming in, or whether it's actually a separate sound. Doesn't really matter that much, of course, but you can see that this is how you can keep things interesting by just and I wouldn't say putting them randomly in the arrangement, but using something like a drum machine or a sampler or a controller like Ableton Push or anything really, and putting these sounds on drum pads or keys and just playing them in live into the arrangement at moments where you feel that they belong or they would sound good, and that gives you this sort of feel where stuff happens at, well, I wouldn't say completely unexpected moments, because they happen at musical moments where they make sense, but making sense doesn't have to be this ever repeating loop. We have other parts that do that. We have, of course, the kick, the bass, the synth here, and for instance this noise burst here. They are very predictable, and some other stuff is moving around that. Okay, so onwards we get here, and there's a simple 8th note hi-hat with a very soft attack. This long drony part here. Sorry, can't imitate that. And then a little later on you get a shaker with some nice variations in it, and every time this extra thing happens, I made this light yellow clip. You can hear that happens around the first beat, and so there's actually a pattern to this, although it's quite irregular, because this is a 5 bar and then this is 1 bar. The fill actually happens around this beat here, so a little bit before, a little bit after, not as long as this. But basically, so this is a 6-bar pattern that repeats again, which makes these variations here sort of unexpected. Okay, and then finally the third sort of high frequency percussion comes in, which is a 16th note hi-hat part. And then basically we have all the percussion going. You can hear still that the 303 bass is still doing the same thing. There's not any filter being played. And then the second bass part comes in. Higher than the 303, being faded in. This one has some more variation. You can hear the filter opening. Again, sorry for my lousy imitation of the sound. Yeah, and then finally we get this lead part, which sounds like a 303 to me too. Simple parts, consisting of these 3 notes and a 4th one, which is introduced here. So da da da. This is actually the 2nd, minor 3rd, and 5th notes of the scale, and the 2nd is interesting because that is a very melancholic note. So if the root of the track is da, or the bass, can't sing that low. And then this first note, that's actually the 2nd of the scale. And that's used really effectively to create this very melancholic feeling. And this melody is interesting. It's very sparse, it's just a few notes, but it has a lot of variation. So I took the time to basically write out all these notes. You can actually hear them. I used ABL 3 again, my favorite 303 emulation. I will turn it off and just, of course there's a nice long reverb and delay on this. And you can hear a lot of filter modulation going on here, which really nicely adds some emotion to it even further. Okay, so you can hear that. I think this is just really beautiful. I think this is really nicely done. Very cool use of the 303. Both these parts in this track are not like the typical screaming, furious sort of acid sound, but they're quite dialed back. Although the lead part has this intensity when the filter opens up, and it's just a beautiful part. I really like this. Another interesting thing here is that this breakdown, where the kick and the bass go away for a little, is actually a very weird 10 bars long. So usually you would expect it to be 8 or 4 or 16. This is 10. And if you listen to it again, for some reason it doesn't sound strange or unnatural, the length of this. So I guess if you do it the right way, you can get out of this sort of robotic, ever repeating multiples of 2 for sort of feel, without it being strange, and yeah, without sort of feeling like it's not continuous enough. So let's check that out again and enjoy that melody. Here you would expect the kick to come in. Just 2 extra bars with another repeat of this nice melody, and now it drops into a part where basically everything except the lead is happening. All 3 high frequency percussion parts, kick in the sub of course, the part again, the longer part, it just doesn't really repeat in the same way. There's basically two figures here. There's the simple and then there's the where actually three variations I should say, where there's the one where there's only these three notes, and there's one where this fourth note is added, and then there's one where a note is added before the start of the melody. So this is 1, 2, 3, just before the third quarter note, or it's like the fourth, eighth note in this bar, and here there's an extra one on the second. And that's basically it, but it sort of repeats at these not too predictable intervals. Although you can see here that actually this is a 1, 2, 3, 4 bar pattern that is happening here, here, and here. Here it becomes a 2 bar pattern, but with 2 variations. Here it is continuous with the extra notes. That's actually the fourth variation of this thing. So 1, 2, 3, and this fourth note, and then this fifth one here, and then it immediately goes into this one where it's basically finished and the top note isn't there. So it keeps changing, keeps moving around. Again, I think the great thing here is without it sounding random or discontinuous or awkward. It's just a very nice way of adding some human feel, not having it repeat too robotically. And of course the playing of the filter helps a lot. Again, this break, 6 bars, not 4, not 8, 6. And I think it's basically the same trick where you have this 4 bar bit, and then there's this 2 bar part tagged on top, which added to the end of it, which gives a chance for one final repeat of the lead melody, and then we go into the basically the final part of the track. The second bass, which has stopped a while ago, starts again, sort of taking over from the lead melody. Percussion is started again, also sometimes at weird moments. This case is just after 4 bars or 8 bars, I should say. Again, this variation in the shaker part, which is a 6 bar loop. Then we get this long droning part. A few more of these other notes floating around. And then here we get to the end. Stops sort of suddenly, also at a weird moment in time, because this happens, this starts 8 bars in here, 8 bars into the drop, and then this part is how long? 21 bars. Weird. And this is even weirder. This final bar has 3 kick drums and not a 4th. And then it's just the 3 more bars of the 303 bass and some sound here, and a little sort of drony in the outro that I didn't put in here, but and that's basically it. So what do we learn from this? I think that there's just really interesting stuff going on with timing, to give it an organic feel, without it feeling weird or forced or something. So that's really a nice achievement, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is the result of live recording, synth automation or synth modulation, basically playing the filter, live playing of certain fills with a controller or something, or on a synthesizer or on a sampler. Maybe some live starting and stopping of clips, either in Ableton or with the hardware setup, something like that. It sounds very much like it was not drawn on a DAW page canvas like this, but more sort of happened organically. And I think that is really a cool thing that we can all learn from. It doesn't have to always have to be these perfect 8 or 16 block bar blocks where stuff happens, and you can play with that and actually make it more musical by doing that. And again, very nice use of the 303 sounds. I'm pretty convinced they're 303s, especially the lead part, to make this a very cool, dark, moody, but emotional and beautiful track. So no surprise that this track was so successful. Anyway, I hope this was useful, entertaining, or both. Like and subscribe if you want to see more. Leave me a comment, tell me what you would like to see me analyze, which tracks. I've had some comments. I'm gonna go into those when I have the time, and pick apart a few more tracks. Of course, you can do this yourself too if there's a track that you're really intrigued by and you think, what is it that makes this so interesting and cool. It is a little bit time consuming, but you can learn a lot. And of course, the idea is not to copy what others are doing, but to learn from what they're doing. Like with the previous video, I will make this project available, of course, without the original audio in it, because I'm not going to give away stuff that is not mine. But I'll share the live set through a link in the video description, so you can download it and have a look around for yourself. You will have to import the track yourself if you want to do that, of course. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. As always, I will see you on the next one. Bye bye.